All right.
Okay, we are live. Finally, we had some technical difficulties. Finally, we've got this stream up and running. Um, crazy, crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. Anyways, I'm here with John. As per usual, we're going to do the post game show on session 16, which I'm calling. In my head, I always think of like something that happens, and I try and think of what I'm going to call it. And what was this one? Is something somebody said. I forget. Anyways, it'll come to me, and then I'll tell you. What did you think? How was the game?
The session was good. It was a nice short session. As I generally say about the session, there was a good amount of both. It was nice to have that little bit of combat at the end. That's always a fun way to end it. Uh, I mean, Jesus, it's really annoying that we didn't find anything out about that rocking horse at the end of the day. Just knocked me out.
Well, there's some gimmies, like you can't expect every single thing to have like some deep, profound answer, and there are some things that are just like novelty things, like this rocking horse. But yeah,
Oh, please just tell me that the rocking horse like just kills whoever sits on
yeah, the rocking horse just that you have discovered the full effect of this toy. Yeah.
it. But why?
But why? He's no fun. He's no Blinsky.
I mean, that's no fun.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Well, it could be cursed, but that is what it does, as it were.
Like, is that from game? Like, is that canon or is this homebrew?
That's homebrew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's homebrew.
Like, do these things exist in the canon?
Yeah,
These Blinsky toys?
so in the canon, there is all of these toys. Well, sort of. Okay, in the original canon, they're all just dolls, and
Okay.
so there's like X amount of dolls, and the dolls kind of do a thing. But in the community, like on Reddit, there's a lot of homebrew. This campaign has a lot of different homebrew, and so people have put out their variations and their flavor of what certain toys should do, or even reworks of some of the toys and stuff like that. This one just happens to be a rocking horse that is made by Blinsky. It's not like one of the collectibles per se, but you were like, I'm going to take this thing. So I'm like, all right, cool. So we'll do it up.
Yeah.
And so it's not canonically like a particularly imbued item or anything like that. And then it just kind of evolves into like, okay, what is this thing going to do? Now, you in the background of this, it's like you actually just blacked out from the poison originally.
But I passed that con save. How did I end up blacked out from the poison?
Um, well, this is the thing, right? Like your character is sort of like a druggie slash like
Yeah.
somebody with experience and all this kind of thing. So we have like a problem in like the narrative. It's like, okay, you're supposed to learn, like if somebody samples this drink, they're going to be poisoned, like because it is poisoned. And so,
Yeah.
but if you have like some sort of attribute or some sort of skill or pass the con save, then it's like, okay, so you're not going to be poisoned, but how do we get the narrative beat across that this, because you're also testing to see if this is poisoned, right? and
Yeah.
then and then simultaneously on top of that layer is the layer of, and you got on the rocking horse, and you're like, what do you do? And so like at the end of the session we have all these little things culminating, and then on top of it there's the gem, and there's, so it's kind of like that's just the
Okay, a
way that
bunch
it
of shit
unfolded.
just went down.
Yeah, it's just the
Yeah,
way
because
it
Legolas
unfolded.
does have poison resistance.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. So the other thing is that this poison too in the homebrew of the campaign is okay. So in the lore of this, like these druids have been banished. They basically came to Barovia a long time ago, and then they worshipped the Fae. But then the people came in, and the kings arrived, and the humans and all that, and they basically like drove the druids out, and they worship the Morning Lord and stuff like that, right? So the druids are kind of like outcasts. Strahd cursed the druids, taking away their wild shape. This was a thing that I was hoping that like Sachi was going to lean into, because she hasn't used wild shape once in this campaign.
she
And
has
oh, has she? What did she transform into?
into a wolf to help dig under the tree of the
Oh, you're
druids.
right. You're right. You're right. Yes, she did. Absolutely. But I was hoping that maybe she would lean into it from the narrative perspective of like, if she had transformed in front of one of these druids, I was immediately going to have them recognize that, and they were going to make her like the chosen one and like their new leader
Hmm.
and like all these kinds of things, right? Don't
Now,
tell her
have
that
you had?
now, but
Of course not. But I mean, there's still room for it. But
yeah, but if you tell her, then I'm gonna have to, you know.
no. But I mean, like, what you could do, like, as the DM, I think part of it is like for all of us like first time users. It's
Yeah,
like she doesn't really have an idea of like how useful wild shape can be, of what she can turn into, of what the consequences of turning into different things are.
yeah,
That's something that, maybe if we hang out live, IRL, or
yeah.
if you wanted to, message her separately to have like a separate conversation, like, hey, I notice you're underusing your
Well, here's the
potential
thing
here.
about it. Here's the thing about it. I don't give a shit. Like I'm already drowning in all of your
Oh
character's
yeah,
abilities, so I don't. If she underutilizes it, then that's totally fine.
yeah,
I
but
don't.
she needs to know even like what she can turn into, right? Because like
Yeah. Well,
even
it's
me,
in
it's like I
there.
I look up like I look into and like I read a bunch of shit, and I would probably have trouble accurately using wild shape because like each wild shape you have has a different like character sheet. Each animal that you can turn into has different traits and different attributes, and if you don't know what they are, uh,
Yeah, but
you're
it's
not you're
in
not
it's
gonna
in
do
her
it.
character sheet though. It's in her. You can see her character sheet. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you open it, let me get it open on. Can I move this? I'll pop it out for
Is it a
folks.
feature? Wild shape?
So it's basically our Sachi character is basically a druid. So you click on features and then wild shape. You see it there.
Yeah.
So
And
starting
it
at
says
second
like so
level,
example wolf,
yeah. So there
uh,
are rules
crocodile.
underneath. But if you click on these things like crocodile or whatever, it will also show you the character sheet of this animal, and you
Yeah.
can click on the features and see So it's kind of like. And it's also like what is rational. It doesn't say anywhere in this crocodile thing that it is like going to be super effective at navigating underwater tunnels and stuff like that, or being like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah. But like
But that's in
one
the
can
role play.
assume.
Yeah, that's in
Yeah,
the
one
role
can
play.
assume. So it says here as shown in the beast shapes table. Uh, so like, is it kind of just up to the druid to kind of like make up and play along?
Oh well,
And kind of like, or is there an actual like full table? Because these are just examples. Like it's obvious that like at level 2 she can obviously transform into more than just a wolf.
yeah.
Uh,
So the way that it works is it works off of challenge ratings. So in other words, let me send it to you in the WhatsApp here. Do you have WhatsApp on the computer, or are you on the
yeah, I've got
Discord?
everything open.
Okay.
Both.
Okay. So this is again, I mean, this is our first campaign, and so we're kind of like we don't necessarily
Yeah,
need to be like this into it. In other words, you guys are learning these classes for the first time. I'm learning these classes for the first time, but I'm learning them through you and how you play them, right? So even the next time that somebody plays a druid is going to be totally different for me, and I'm like drowning, like I said. Like when you just have suddenly, like we had 5 PCs originally, and they all have different, and then they're leveling up and they're getting new things, and then it's like, I don't know, Legolas, how many turns you
yeah,
have. Like you just tell me, like if you're saying you can take a turn, then I will trust you because I'm trying to, you know.
yeah.
Plus, I've got all the NPCs, and I'm like in their world. Like it's definitely a lot. So, but
Oh,
anyways,
I agree completely. But I guess more the point I was making is that like if you do have like not just for Sachi but like for anybody, is you won't need to get like too far into it, but you can definitely bring stuff up that way, like even outside the game, to
yeah,
be like, hey, like here's some. I noticed some facets of your character
yeah,
that have not been like. Check out this cool stuff.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, this is the thing. I'm also I haven't done a follow up with her because you guys in the
yeah,
car, right? But then we didn't send.
right.
So, anyways, but okay. So let's talk a little bit about this lightning issue that we had. Well, because we didn't do it on the air. But basically, the situation is that some spells and some things like Call Lightning is a concentration spell. We don't generally concentrate, we find, but also we were trying to discuss what our solution was to the, if it's 10 minutes, is that 10 minutes real time? Is it 10 minutes in the game, which is like 10 rounds of
I think
six
it is.
people?
I think
Yeah.
I would say I would have to say I fall in the on the rules as written side of this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think like 10 rounds, it might seem like a whole lot, but I think the odds of nothing happening in that 10 rounds to break that concentration is incredibly low, especially if you, the DM, knows what's going on.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to play it like actually concentration. The other thing is, what is the something like Call Lightning? You have called Lightning. Let's pull it up actually and see
Yeah.
what it actually is. Here, I'll put it in the on the screen here. Because here's what my question is. Call Lightning. Boom, boom.
I've got
Okay, so we have a concentration spell. It's a 60-foot cylinder, 120 feet, and it goes for 10 minutes. And basically, is a massive.
It's a cloud. It's a cloud 100 feet in the air,
Yeah.
a big cylindrical cloud.
Now here's the thing. Let's say Sachi casts it. It's her first turn, and she rains down some damage. Then we go through the rotation of everybody else, and it comes back to her. It says that, where is it? Is it an action?
It says one action.
Okay, it is an action. So if you have, does doing an action cancel the concentration?
I don't believe so because it says on each of your turns until the spell ends, you can use your action to call down lightning.
But let's say you have like a bonus action, and your bonus action is to like do something. I guess then it would just depend if it's a spell, for example. That's
Yeah,
what
it's
it
like
would
she
be.
can't cast another spell.
I'm just wondering, like in the theoretical whatever narrative of it, it's like if you're going to pull out your bow and arrow and fucking fire on some other like dwarf, meanwhile you're concentrating on keeping a lightning spell active, is that actually possible in the narrative of it? I guess the answer is there's nothing that says it's not possible.
And I think the argument could easily be made that like you are casting magic, right? Like
Yeah.
obviously some part of your brain is wired in such a way that you can maintain,
Yeah.
maybe
Okay.
not at like some crazy fucking levels, like you can't shoot three different people and cast off three different spells,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's like your body and your mind are obviously trained in such a way that like you can maintain passive concentration on something.
Yeah.
So it's like if she's got this thing going, like if she had a bonus action that said she could slingshot somebody else in the face, I don't see why that would break her concentration.
Yeah. 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 Okay. No,
If
I think
somebody
that makes
slingshotted
sense.
her in the face, that would break her concentration.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. I think I agree. Okay, cool. Um, what did you think of the actual session? So let's talk. We'll talk a little bit. What we were in the Druid village. You woke up from being poisoned. Oh, that was the thing that I wanted to mention was I tried to connect it in the sense of it being like these. The poison was really the druids were angry at the Mardikovs for like Strahd cursed them. They couldn't do wild shape,
Okay.
but then you've got these Mardikovs that are ravens and they're doing it. And so like not only are we going to take your winery, but we're also going to like poison you to not give you the
Yeah.
opportunity to
I
turn.
think I think that could have come off stronger
Yeah, yeah,
a little bit earlier on. I don't
yeah.
think that's a thing that we really got until like it was explicitly stated near the
Yeah.
end.
Well, this is what I'm learning too. I heard Brendan say this, Brendan Lee Mulligan, and it's like sage wisdom. But he's like, in some ways, being a DM and prepping stuff is like baking a cake. Like you find out what's missing when the cake comes out. You know, it's like, oh
Yeah.
shit. You know, like
Should have said that.
you
Yeah.
can't go back and say it in the last session. And that was kind of like one of those things, but it's so minor. But the idea is that this simple event or the narrative, this could be disastrous for the Order of the Feather, you know?
Yeah. I think we sort of because it wasn't so tied to the Order of the Feather, I think part of our thing was like, okay, so how many people is this going to affect? And like, if anybody wants to go back and watch the session, you can see the incredible long conversation we had, just kind of bickering over. It's like, do we tell other people? Do we not tell other people? Who's
Yeah.
really going to be affected by this? And it's like there's points coming up on all sides,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, it became a much larger, more nebulous thing. Like
Yeah.
we're like, okay, we could have just not told anybody, but it sounds to me like the only people really would have affected were the Mordecai.
Yeah. The other thing is that there is some potentiality with like reading Davian's journal to navigate like where is this wine headed, and can
That is not a thing that any of us is about to decipher.
no, but it's like they're the letters of the town, like K. What could K be? Right?
Kresk
Kresk, right? What is S? Like Strahd. What is so sending this? This can be sent as like a weapon. Like what
tells us,
happens? What happens if this potion that is like whatever gets sent to Kresk? Right? Is that going to affect the things that are happening in Kresk and stuff like that?
yeah.
Right?
I mean, Legolas's argument was that we don't know who's going to be a friend later,
Yeah.
and
Well, the other
we
thing
can't
is,
just be halfway around the world, find somebody who's now our friend and needs their magic back, and can't get all the way to the druids to fix it.
yeah, yeah.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah, well, the other thing too is like it's your allies to a degree too, right? Like who are you going to piss off? Who are you going to befriend? And like all these kinds of things. So it can come back to haunt you. But yeah. Okay. So then you headed north. You ran into this little guy, Cyrus Bellevue. Remember him? What do you think of that guy? He arrived in a black carriage.
Ah, right. That guy whose day Legolas ruined.
Yeah, you took a shit in the carriage. Yeah.
Yep,
Oh
yep. Just took a
goodness.
nice, just left a nice log for him as a present there.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's going to come back to bite me.
Well,
So,
go ahead.
I was going to say, so he's the guy that the we probably should have talked to him about that. He's some kind of sleeper agent, some kind of double agent working in the. Does he know what he's carrying around his neck? Uh,
Well, you can if he's in your character acquaintances now. If you want to see him,
let's take a look. Uh, Barovia encounters? No.
no, in the actress tab, acquaintances. He's in the castle.
Ravenloft Castle. Okay. Mongrel folk, 4'9", so he's taller than Legolas. Pierce shorter. Okay, he has ears of a panther, his left foot Loki. Like, this gives me no useful information. I don't know why you asked me to pull this out.
Well, it's Strahd's faithful servant.
Okay. So he doesn't. So what you're suggesting there is he doesn't know what he's carrying.
Uh, Presumably,
Or that,
no. So the thing is, you guys got this hag's eye from Morgantha. Morgantha was carrying
yeah,
it on her person, and you determined that it is a scrying device and it can see out the other eye. Now, the other eye is basically wrapped around this guy's neck. This guy is Strahd's manservant and presumably is always in the castle. So this is a very useful thing if somebody can learn to scry.
yeah. We don't have yet.
Which you don't know yet. Yeah. But in fact, Sachi would have already have because it is in her druid skill tree. But it is the druid. It is not Circle of the Land. It is another type of druid.
Yeah. I think when we were building Sachi, we were trying to build a more combat ready druid. So we
Gotcha.
picked Circle of the Land because it had things like Bark Skin,
Yeah.
Flame Blade, Call Lightning.
Yeah.
Uh,
I find her character is the druids in general because they have like such robust spells, but they're so locked into their trees. It seems like they're hard to find. Like, what do they wield? That's really the thing, right?
like weapon wise,
Yeah, like they don't really have much. I mean,
I mean,
she has a fair bit of proficiencies, but anyways, You know what else I learned is that I've got Faendal is growing the habit of being like a long range player,
Yeah,
and a lot of the characters that you guys are meeting, at least at this point, are not long range equipped, but they will have to be, obviously, because he is getting through battles like unharmed.
yeah.
You know,
He
and
has been kind of our savior on high a lot of the time.
yeah, well, I think that he has great value that way because he's got like the friggin' sniper thing. He actually has the skill tree for it, but
Yeah.
he's taking no damage ever, and that's not cool. That'll get boring for
It's
him too.
because it's because Legolas and Napoleon tend to just really get up in everybody's business and just piss them off. You
Yeah,
know, it's hard to ignore the two 4 foot nothing uh angry gnome and dwarf coming at you and swinging at the knees, and people just don't like that. So it happens like every fight like clockwork. It's like Legolas rushes in, smacks around as many people as he can. Napoleon comes in and just hits one of them really hard with like an assassinate or something, and because Legolas is standing right there, and then everybody in the area is pissed off at us and is now not paying any attention to our farther back companions.
yeah,
Which
yeah,
works because between the two of us, we're sitting at like 17 and most of the time 19 ACs. So we just can stand there and just be damage sponges for a while. Yeah.
okay, hello.
Hello.
Okay, we're good now.
Are we back?
Yeah,
Are we live?
yeah. So I mean, it's good to have like varied people, right? That's what you're saying. Being up close and personal and stuff like that is actually pretty good. And it's funny because I'm now taking my foot off the brake a little bit because you guys have got like significant hitboxes. Like I was basically wailing on you in the last session, and I was in my head, I'm like fucking horrified every roll because I'm rolling public, and
Yeah.
you're just taking them, and I'm like, oh, this is like nice. Like I'm like,
You can finally swing, take the gloves off.
yeah, yeah. So that's like happening a little bit. But the other thing is that, you know, that is in context with like you guys are just facing some like werewolves. And this was, you guys went after White Claw from it. So yeah. Okay. So let's
Yeah.
move on in the story. So we hit the Raven River Bridge. You cross these wolves kind of. Hey, you know what was funny? You guys like couldn't even get through the grass, eh? Like you remember that you were trying to
Yeah.
navigate through the
We couldn't see anybody or
you couldn't
anything.
see anybody. That was probably very frustrating for you, but I didn't plan it that way. But I had drawn in the walls of, or I was using the pack. This is a pack by Pyram King, I think. And he had drawn in the walls, and I always make some modifications. But because of that, it was funny because the wolves could move through it no problem, but you guys couldn't. And actually, I thought that was neat because you couldn't even see that. So that's like the potentiality in the future to get you like
Oh, please
caught
don't do stuff
you
like
get you
that.
caught in the woods.
Although we could move through it. They weren't real walls.
Oh, you could
We
actually
could,
move?
yeah, we could move through it. I just couldn't see through it.
Couldn't see through. Okay, good. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I guess that's where we called the session. So you guys are probably headed to Kresk next. Oh, what did you think of this tower here? You found the decrepit tower.
I mean, I think I was out having a smoke when we came to the tower.
You didn't come to
Uh,
it yet. I just said
yeah, well, like
that you
when
guys
yeah, when you
basically,
were describing it, and I don't think Legolas has anything about that in his story, about the tower.
yeah. So when you guys were up in like Druid Land or whatever, you could see there were various places around.
Oh, and that's where yeah, the glowing fog is at that tower.
Something's glowing there. There's a few
Yeah.
little points of interest that when you guys finally were able to get out, there's something going on in Valakai. Something way, way up north, it looks like. Maybe it's some sort of pride event.
Oh, I thought that was the moon or something.
That's something way up north.
Oh, okay. Even better. And we don't
Even
have to go to the moon.
better. Well, maybe you're gonna go to the moon. I don't think you're going to the moon. I didn't plan the moon. Maybe a little
To the
vision
moon.
to the moon. All right, cool. Well, let's
Yeah.
cap this. Unless there's anything else that you want to say, we'll cap this, and then we are. Do you want to start this session thing? I'm like ready if you want to. It'll be fun.
I mean, I am not quite ready, and Joanna is going to be on her way home soon. Uh, so I am 100 kinds of down still to build this session. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, just for anybody who's still listening, if we're live, we are
Yeah,
going
we
to be
are.
doing a whole new series based on building a first time session
Yeah,
with our
I
first time
think
DM.
I think we should just do it right now. Like I'm ready. I know you like you don't have to do a lot of thinking. I'm just gonna walk you through some basic shit. But
But
if you
I'd
don't,
love to do some thinking. Like
all right.
I think it's going to work out best for me and for anybody who's watching if you have some kind of like lesson plan for us to go through, and we're not just winging it. Otherwise, we might get a little in the weeds and
No, but we're not gonna wing
be
it.
hard.
I've already got it prepped. I got like a whole. Anyways, we're not gonna get shit done in the first half an hour episode, but it's good setup. You're gonna like name the place. You're gonna make the main page. You're gonna make a character or two. You're gonna make a journal entry or two. Like you don't need a lot of information for that necessarily. It's just learning like how do you assign a class? How do you assign a weapon to a character? How do you assign an item to a character? Like stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's not like you don't need to know anything about your story yet, you know.
Okay.
But you will need to know some basic things like what are you going to call the town? You're going to call it Untitled One land. That's going to show up on the map. Untitled One? No, you got to come up with a dumb name and
Untitlia.
Untitlia. Well, that's what my place is called, Testbedia. It's a test bed where I do shit, right? So if you want, we can fucking do a half an hour episode, dude. It will be done at 6 if you want, or we don't need to.
Let's pause.
All
Let's
right.
pause on it.
All right, cool.
The last thing that I thought was worth mentioning was something I think that came up during our last conversation that we didn't record.
Hmm.
And that was just in terms of like, part of what we're even doing here, which is like you're a first time DM, I'm a first time player, and we're going through our experiences here. And I think that conversation was important because that was when I was kind of bitching and complaining about like just everything being way too open world and not having any idea of what's going to really happen. And I think it's important for both new players and new DMs to sort of have that in mind. Is that you let me know that yes, you will be you will be shoehorning us into certain situations, and we're not going to miss out on plot or miss out on things just because we're not sitting there and taking notes. Uh, which could definitely be something that other first-time players would think about. It's like they don't want to necessarily, especially in their first campaign,
Yeah.
have to meticulously note everything that's going to happen, or they miss out on entire aspects
Yeah.
of the game. It could be a legitimate worry. So the fact that you were able to uh, assure that that's not the case.
Yeah. So I will speak to it from my side was that, excuse me, basically the situation is such that as a DM, I have like information that I have to give through characters. I have like hooks for missions that are like related to some characters and so on and so forth. So if you just fucking roll up and execute a character, then it's like, well, where does that information go? Like, you're just not going to get that information? Well, the answer is ultimately no, it's got to come out through another way now. And it will, kind of thing. So you don't really miss things. Like, there are only so many locations you will go to, and there are only so many people. And I will give you a perfect example of that because there's one that happened in the last session. So in our last session, you guys left the Druid Village, you went all the way up or whatever. By the time you got to the Raven River Bridge, it's like we're coming up to the end of the session now. We've got like half an hour left, 40 minutes left. We want to do a fight, you know. So it's like, all right, we've been given a mission to go hunt this White Claw. So let's do it, right? And then you go and you do it. Now, White Claw's a werewolf. That's explicitly stated. A werewolf means that that's a person as well as a wolf. And so they're obviously going to have information, and they're obviously going to have like a story of some kind. You had heard coming here that there are two packs, wolf packs, that are like at odds with each other north of Kresk, right? This is not north of Kresk. This is south of Kresk. So, and that's okay. So there's information. Now this person is dead. But the other thing is, you have done the mission of this person whose little animals have been being hunted and stuff like that, right? So it is kind of like there will be a moment, like that meme. This is what I at the end of the session last, and here's the other thing I'll say before we go further. As a DM, I know that you guys just want a battle. Like, you're looking for whatever battle can be had. There's only one that's been
Yeah.
presented, and it has been presented as a mission. Obviously, that's going to be the one you're going to do. I'm not going to punish you for that. Obviously, you want a battle. So, but the funny thing is, that meme where it's like that little cartoon guy? Let me pull it up, and I'll pull it on the stream so everybody.
While you're looking for that, like I just want to bring up a bit of a side example of what we were talking about. Maybe a truer example was what we were talking about with the green gem
Yeah,
in that last conversation, where as a player, I had a bit of an issue where it was like, how do we like? I understand that we've been given clues as to what the green gem is and where it's supposed to go, and the megaliths and who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, and we've been kind of given clues
yeah,
in every direction of it. And as a player, I was kind of like lost. I was just sort of,
yeah,
what are we? I haven't been taking enough notes on this. What are we going to do? What's best for the game? What's best for the party? What's best for the experience?
yeah,
And feeling a little bit too much pressure to have done all of those things.
yeah,
And then our wonderful DM let it be known, and it actually happened in game that like it didn't even matter because there was another character to come and tell us all of the things
yeah,
that we missed. And it was
yeah,
like, just because it's like, if you were the type of player who would have more fun taking those notes and trying to beat the DM into figuring these things out, then you absolutely have that opportunity to do that,
yeah,
which is what you're doing. But if you're somebody more like Legolas or like myself, you're not going to pay attention to that. But it's great that you don't have to miss out or lose anything for that.
yeah. And there's okay. So I sent you the meme thing. Just have a look at that for a second.
Oh, that one.
So I will explain when this thing is going to happen. So basically, like, you are going to come to a point in the game where you're going to all look at yourselves and make that face.
Oh
that
shit.
and that's what I left the session with in my head. I was you guys were like, "All right, we'll see you later. Goodbye, goodbye." And I'm thinking in my head,
Oh shit. We just killed somebody we probably shouldn't have killed right away.
well, it's not that you probably shouldn't have or you should have, you could have, like, it's just a person. You just straight up went and murdered this werewolf on this lady's word. And she and frankly, she's not lying. This the werewolf group that lives here has got to eat, right? And they're just attacking her animals. Like, what are they going to do? Right? Easy prey. Times are tough. But the funny thing is that you're going to learn who this is at some point, and you're going to be like, you're going to make that face, right? But it's just a little minor, whatever. And it's fun. It's just funny the way it
That
plays
is,
out.
yeah,
When you
that's gonna
play
be
the
great.
game a second time,
I
then
can't wait to see
yeah,
how the pen pals react to finding out who White Claw was.
yeah. Well, it's just whatever. It's not even. It's not a super big impact. It's just a fun thing. But in my head, I'm like, oh, it's just funny. But you could have done the opposite. You could have been like, fuck these werewolves who are gonna kill this lady, right? And then some other
I mean,
stuff
like,
happens.
I feel like there's what I really like is that like we are really solidifying who we are as a team.
Yeah.
It's like we are the pen pals. We are needlessly violent. We are attempting
Yeah.
to be good guys.
Yeah, there's always like you. Oh, let me ask you this: what did you think of the newspaper?
I need to go further into it. Like I haven't read it all word for word, but that is really cool, and I love that it's there.
Yeah, so there is it's somewhere, I don't know. There it is, Valakai newspaper. There are some icons that are missing, by the way. It's in the special events. Did you find it? The Valakai Herald. Here.
Oh, perfect.
Um, yeah, so there's information in there too.
Yeah, I
So
definitely.
So
Or read this at some
give
point.
it a read. I put it in the WhatsApp too.
Yeah, I saw that.
Um, yeah, there's those. Each one of those stories has a piece of information, obviously, that can be gleaned from it, and including the final page of just things, right? And this is like a report card, like I was saying, in some ways. Not really a report card, but just kind of like these are the. This is you guys are building a reputation. Some people are not a fan of you.
Here's a question. When did Legolas pick up the wolf mask?
You picked it up when you were in Blinsky's shop.
Really early, right?
Yeah.
Now, what are the odds that the townspeople might not recognize Legolas either with or without the wolf
Oh,
mask
see,
on?
this is fun player gaming. Now we're doing it. Yeah. That's a very good question. I think. Did you put it on as soon as you got it? I believe you did, right?
I believe I did.
Yeah, you were fully disguised. They would not recognize you, I'm going to say. And maybe I have to retcon the newspaper to I'll put a werewolf mask on it on you in the. Yeah,
So theoretically, Legolas can walk right into Valakai.
I would say that it's as far as I know narratively, you have not taken it off.
I have not taken it off. I've purposely not taken off the mask.
Yeah, I think that you would be. I mean, you would probably have to wear an outfit like you might be recognized by your gear or something. But
I
you
mean,
do have
I have a Vistani cloak I'm
you.
wearing.
Well, the thing is though, you were whatever
Does,
you were wearing prior. You have a new druid cloak though, for example.
I got rid of that. I sold it.
Oh well, maybe somebody has one. But if whatever you were wearing previously, there's gonna maybe out you. Like if you have a big friggin' warhammer on your back and your big white beard, like you might need to change your clothes. But
Yeah, or I could do up the Vistani cloak and pretend I'm a Vistani child or a little old woman.
sure, you could. Well,
I could.
Vistani are not really allowed, right? They don't like
Uh,
them to.
I'd have to switch clokes with somebody or
Yeah,
borrow somebody's druid
yeah,
cloak.
yeah.
Okay,
So
but it
that's
is
something.
doable. It is possible.
That's something that is totally. Yeah, that's. I would make the argument that that's totally valid. Yeah.
That's excellent. That's so wonderful.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's pin this episode here,
Yeah,
and
that's a
then
great place to stop.
yeah, you can come up with your plans. There's multiple things a going, so it'll be interesting to see what you guys get up to.
Well, thank you very much for your time. This has been fun.
Yeah, and thank you if anybody's watching. There's 0 viewers live, but who cares? We'll just keep doing it for fun, and then it'll be discovered after the fact, maybe.
It's nice. Well, thank you for watching in case you watch it later and pretend that you're watching it live.
Yes. All right, take it easy. I'll talk to you later. We'll hang
Yeah.
out this weekend or something.